may be taken. The public will have an opportunity to be heard as shown on the agenda. Mr. Marco, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Here.
Ms. Gills? Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro?
Here.
Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Here. Okay, we're going to go into executive session. The Open Public Meetings Act authorizes a public body to exclude the public from that portion of a meeting at which specified topics are to be discussed under circumstances where the public consideration of such topics will clearly endanger the public or where the personal privacy or guaranteed rights of individuals whose activities or affairs are to be discussed would clearly be in danger of unwarranted invasions, and the matters about to be presented for discussion clearly meet the circumstances test of such that the Board of Education of Somerset Hills now adjourns its public session to reconvene an executive session for the purpose of discussing the following: personnel, student matters, contracts, negotiations, and litigation. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, please? Mr. Grandpre, and a second? Ms. Santoro, thank you. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Okay, and Mr. Marco, roll call, please.
Mr. Baker?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Here.
Ms. Gills?
Here.
Mr. Joyce?
Here.
Ms. Nathans?
Here.
Mrs. Santoro?
Here.
Mrs. Tober?
Here.
Mrs. Rye?
Here.
And Mrs. Frenda.
Here. And with no further ado, Dr. Brochel is going to begin his report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Mrs. Frenda. It's good to see everybody in attendance tonight, and certainly another great day was had today in Somerset Hills. The first folks that we have presenting tonight are from Bernardsville Middle School. Just as a reminder, Mrs. Garofalo and the gang over at the middle school rotate their student speakers, and tonight we are going to be we're going to have an update from two folks that are in the cast of You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Catherine East, and Rocco Parente. So I met both of these folks the other day and just found them to be very engaging, and just had a great time learning a little bit about them, learning a lot about the show, and it really is a pleasure to introduce them to you, and we're going to call up Catherine first. Catherine.
Good evening. I am Catherine East, and I will be playing the role of Sally in the BMS musical You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The play will be performed Thursday and Friday of next week. It's a musical with 7th and 8th graders. I am also in the student council at BMS. We are the voice of the students at BMS and make fun activities happen here by brainstorming what we think and know our peers will enjoy. Our student government also fundraises for organizations like Hugs for Brady. Last year, we raised over $1,500 for our state charity. The Student Council makes ideas come to life about how we can make our school a better place. Elections are at the end of the month. I am in the House of Duke along with Rocco as well. I would now like to touch on some sports updates. Cross country continues to do well. Girls soccer faces some difficult opponents this season, while boys soccer recently beat the Mendham Borough 5-0. Field hockey has a record of 6 wins and 2 losses, and they will play their first round in a tournament on Thursday. The green team will continue its coat collection until the end of the month. Now I would like to introduce Rocco.
Good evening. My name is Rocco Parente, and I will be Charlie Brown in the play You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I'm on the Culture and Climate team at BMS. Culture and Climate is a group of students that come up with all of the fun activities we do in school. Our Culture and Climate motto is 4 houses, 1 school. With everyone's help and feedback, we try to include thoughts and ideas to create the best school environment possible. Our next event is Country vs. Country Club this Friday. You can either dress up as a fierce cowboy or cowgirl, or dress in very nice attire like khakis or a polo shirt. Everyone is looking forward to this Friday. Last week, we ended our Week of Respect with a school-wide house day. House day was fun and everyone enjoyed cheering for their house to win. Our physical education teachers think it was a hit because people felt included, especially the 5th graders, before they got to hang out with everyone for their first time. They felt included because they might be a little scared since it's their first year at BMS, but I'm sure that all the students gave them a warm welcome. House Day was held in the gym, and we were all able to participate in the games, whether it was racing on carts with plungers or popping balloons to find a task. Every house by grade got to participate in a tug-of-war, with teachers beating Penn State in the finals. Overall, this was a great house day and a great way to start off the year.
Thank you, Rocco and Catherine. You guys did even better than we practiced. You did great. So next up, we have our folks from the high school, Gabrielle and Madison.
Hello, my name is Madison Perugia, and I'm your student representative for BHS. The students at BHS have been busy these last few weeks with developments across clubs, sports, and other various activities. Starting off, the sports teams have had an impressive fall season. The girls' tennis team is in the sectional finals today, and we were seated as number 1. The boys' soccer team is in the county semifinals today, where we just beat Gill. And the girls' soccer team just had a super impressive win against Ridge High School late last week. Also with our sports updates, various sports through BHS have announced trips. These include girls lacrosse, boys lacrosse, softball, baseball, and instrumental music. These trips really help students to bond with their sports teams and highlight the important community aspect of these sports, allowing students to make lifelong memories with one another. Our football team also just won their homecoming football game. There were over 400 students at the football game and another 370 at the homecoming dance the next night. This followed the Spirit Week, where students dressed in various themes to show their BHS spirit, and a pep rally hosted by the senior class for the entirety of BHS. I'm going to turn it over to Gabby now.
So the activities at BHS are also now in full swing. Today was Unity Day, a day where students pledged to end bullying and showed support by wearing orange at the school. We just wrapped up the activities fair, where many clubs and programs advertised for students to join. Notably, the Girl Up Club had an impressive 50 sign-ups just from one little lunch meeting, which is awesome. Key Club at BHS has officially started meetings, and the journalism program has just released its first print issue and several online articles. The chorus department has also newly released that their Pops Night theme will be Disney, so make sure to check that out later in the school year. For mainly the juniors and seniors at BHS, the BHS and Ridge High School College Fair took place at Ridge High School on Thursday, where students got to speak to representatives and explore the options for different colleges and universities. The juniors also just took their PSAT and MQT test this morning. Back to school night took place for the parents last week, with many parents attending and providing the teachers with an opportunity to show off what classroom activities are happening so far this school year. Thank you.
I'd like to thank both sets of student speakers. I think what they did tonight really was to highlight how robust and how vast and far-reaching not only our academic programs are, but our entire extracurricular program in athletics and clubs really does prepare them for the next level, really does prepare them to be really successful in the future. So it's just great to hear all the great things that are happening in our schools. And I shared before that it was another great day in Somerset Hills, and certainly it was great to see that we beat Gill. I was there for almost 2 halves, but I had another gang that I was going to hang out with tonight, so I missed the penalty shots. So it's great to hear, so thanks for the update there. We have some high achievement to talk about tonight at Bernard's High School, and this is something that Mr. Nigel and I have discussed at great length, and certainly it is a point for celebration. And we have a host of students here who benefit from some very, very talented instructional staff. They benefit from a high level of family support, and they benefit from a great program in our district. And we are going to spend some time today talking about some folks at the high school who are being recognized by the College Board. And that certainly is a great thing. So the first group, if I could call them up, and Mr. Nigel is so proud to be here, I know, and he and I speak quite often about all these kids. They have been recommended, or they have earned the National Merit Scholarship. They are commended students in that program. And I'm going to ask Mr. Nigel to kind of assist me here. If you'd like to call the names, yeah.
I will. I have a little bit sentence or two.
All right, so just so everyone knows, Gabby and Madison said earlier today, our juniors took the PSAT-NMSQT, which stands for National Merit School Qualifying Test, right? So the scores that they earned on this exam back last year are what generate the National Merit Scholarship commended students and semifinalists. So I'm going to call up each student and just give a quick little, because Dr. Brochel had said, these are students who are academically successful, but also I want you to know what they do outside the classroom as well. So first up, I'd like to just call up Kurt Hunziker. Congratulations, Kurt. Right there. Kurt is an invaluable member of the BHS Jazz Ensemble, just stay up here, and BHS Swim Team. Kurt's talents extend beyond the classroom. His dedication to personal growth and community well-being is evident in his active involvement in his Congressman's Youth Advisory Committee, as well as a member of the HMC, Harvard Model Congress. Kurt is a bright young individual with a promising future. Congratulations, Kurt. Next, we have Josh Kutikoff. Josh is one of our scholar athletes. He participates in hockey and football. He's also involved in art club, and he is a peer leader. He's a great student and a great role model for our younger students. He is applying for engineering major and specifically wants to be an aerospace engineer. Congratulations. Next up, we have Matt Oliveira. Matt has been heavily involved in the Columbia Science Honors Program and NJIT Biomedical Engineering course that focuses on his interest in biology and quantum science. Matt participated in the Governor's School program in the summer going into his senior year and just presented at a research conference at MIT. I could try to explain what he presented on, but I don't even understand it. Matt participates in the chemistry club and marching band at BHS. He would like to study engineering and work in the tech field. Congratulations, Matt. Next up, Colin Schlosser. Colin is an extremely dedicated student who envisions a future in computational linguistics and programming. Colin is the president of the Tech and Robotics Club and is involved in the Harvard Model Congress and Math League. He also serves as the senior class vice president. Congratulations, Colin. And last but not least, for here tonight, Brianna's not here tonight, but Charlie Vaccaro. Charlie is a great student as well as an excellent lacrosse player who is looking to play in college. He has also taken on a leadership role as a peer leader board member, helping incoming freshmen transition to the high school and fostering a welcoming environment at Bernards High School. He participates in clubs like Key Club, Stigma Free Club, and he maintains jobs outside the high school. Congratulations, Charlie. And Brianna couldn't make it tonight, but I do need to point out that last year, Brianna was actually the NJ.com Girls Fencer of the Year, undefeated. She is a state, national, and international fencer. So congratulations to Brianna. We have two students who have actually moved on in the competition and are eligible to receive both finalist status and scholarships from National Merit. First up, we have Trevor Sardis. Very good lacrosse team GPA this year. Trevor's also a scholar athlete who has had scholastic success and athletic accolades. Trevor's worked hard and become recognized for his lacrosse abilities, earning state, national, and even international honors. Trevor has served as captain-elect of the varsity lacrosse team and will play in college. He is also the student council president as well as the co-founder of Green Therapy and SNUGS National, which are nonprofit programs designed to help special needs children. So congratulations, Trevor. Another National Merit semifinalist, Evan Seeker. Evan not only sings in the concert choir, participates in our school theater productions, but even took on the role of co-director for the fall play this year. I'm looking forward to watching you in action, Evan. And he's also in his work in the chemistry club. Evan enriches club discussions and contributes positively to the lives of his peers. Congratulations, Evan. We have 4 students who earned academic honors from the College Board National Recognition Program. These programs celebrate students' hard work in high school and showcase their strong academic performance. The academic honors for rural area, Black, Indigenous, or Latino students are an opportunity for students to share their strong academic achievements with colleges and scholarship programs that are seeking to recruit diverse talents. The following 3 students were awarded the National Hispanic Recognition Award. I'm not going to read his blurb again, but Matthew Oliveira, come back up. I will ask that Sydney Solomon come up. All right. Sydney is a talented dancer who has devoted hundreds of hours to her passion. In addition, Sydney has been actively involved in clubs like the Key Club and Best Buddies, dedicating her time to various service initiatives. Sydney's passion for helping others is evident in her leadership roles within these clubs and her dedication to making a positive impact in the community. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going out of order a little bit. Now let's go back one because I have 2 other students. Montserrat Gonzalez, please come up. Montserrat is an esteemed member of the National Honor Society, serves as a peer leader, and serves in Best Buddies, all which speak to her commitment to inclusivity and serving others within the BHS community. Her dedication to various service projects underscores her unyielding desire to give back to others. Montserrat has indicated she might be interested in pursuing architecture in the future. Congratulations. And I did kind of go backwards because Kayla Najira actually won both the National Hispanic Recognition Award and the African American Recognition Award. So Kayla, come on up. Kayla is actually the founder of the BHS Stigma Free Club, which she created to raise awareness about mental health and actively works to break down the stigma surrounding it. She's also a member of National Honor Society, various athletic teams, Key Club, and Best Buddies. She wants to study finance in college. Congratulations. Oh, Kayla gets 2 awards. There we go. And one more recognition. There we go. Got my tweet in there and everything. That's nice. So this year, actually, the second year in a row, I get notified. I hadn't been notified before, but I got an email last year and again this year of a student who got a perfect score on the Advanced Placement Computer Science Principles exam. Now, it says perfect score. We get a lot of students who have a perfect score. Not a 5. This is every single point possible. And they always, like the College Board tells me how many students got it perfect. So there was 167,000 test takers worldwide. There were 459 who got a perfect score, and we have one of them here at Bernards High School. So I'd like to congratulate Vanshika Gupta. And Vanshika, I do have a little blurb about you. Vanshika is truly an outstanding student with a commendable work ethic. Active in a number of STEM-focused co-curriculars, she currently holds the role of co-secretary in the Math League. She participates in chemistry competitions with the Science League and brings her enthusiasm for technology in the tech and STEM clubs. Vanshika also serves as the contest committee head for the Pinnacle staff, that is our literary magazine, and is in the process of establishing an American Sign Language club at BHS. I didn't know that. That's good to know. Congratulations. And you also see in that picture is Vanchika's teacher, who actually, I don't know if there's any statistics out there, but she has gone 2 years in a row with a student with a perfect score on the AP Computer Science Principles. So these students in here interested in taking that, please see the program of studies and congratulate Miss Kamuto, who is here tonight. You got to stand up. You can't just sit there, Lisa. Okay, there we go. Actually, you have to come on up. Even worse. Congratulations.
Certainly a lot to celebrate, and I'd like to thank Mr. Nigel for assisting us tonight, and certainly all the young men and women who are working so hard to meet their goals, and for the teachers and support staff that do the same. So it's a great night, and what I wanted to wanted to take a minute and point out what the high school has achieved, which is no small feat. They were named to the 2023 Advanced Placement Honor Roll by the College Board. They are a gold member. There's only one level higher. And to be a gold member, 40% or more of the graduating cohort needed to take at least one AP in high school, and 25% or more of the cohort needed to score a 3 or higher on at least one AP, and 2% or more of the cohort needed to take 5 or more AP exams during high school, and one of them needed to be taken prior to 11th grade. So with that in mind, we had 73% of the seniors took at least one AP exam, and 40% was the minimum. 60% of the seniors scored 3 or higher, and again, 25% was the minimum, and 14% of the seniors took 5 or more AP exams. So certainly something to celebrate and something to acknowledge, and I'd like to thank Mr. Nigel, Dr. Butler, and all of the supervisors and instructional staff members that make that happen. So certainly something to recognize. Moving forward, we have 3 folks from our football program that we have brought in tonight to celebrate 100 wins. And shortly after my arrival here, I made the rounds as the students started to come in and participate in preseason athletics, and made my way down to the football field, and Mr. Simino and I had traded some voicemails in the summer while we were, in the car, etc. And we got to meet face to face. And the first thing, almost the first thing he said to me was, I have an amazing staff. I have amazing assistant coaches, and they really make everything about this program special. And I wouldn't be anywhere without them. I handle all the parent emails. They handle the coaching. And I think that Mr. Simino does a little more than that. But the point that he was making, and the point that was well received by me, was that he had what we call a program, and he had a successful one, and he has people under him that are a big part of that. We didn't bring his entire coaching staff in here with him tonight because there were 2 in particular that have been with Mr. Simino for every of his 100 wins. And the first is a fella who has the same last name, and I call him Mr. Simino. His name's Wayne Simino, and he is a member of the New Jersey Football Coaches Hall of Fame. He has been certainly an assistant coach here, and he's an important part of the fabric and the culture of the program.
And certainly we have something for him as well in a moment, so I wanted to point that out. And we also have Mr. Carmen. Dave is a paraprofessional with us in the district. He is somebody that I've found in my observations of him to be extremely student-centered, very focused, very direct, very passionate, and very caring of the student athletes that play for him. And it does mean a lot to me that when we put kids on the football team in front of you, Mr. Carmen and Mr. Simino, that they're provided with a challenging environment, a supportive environment, and one that is built around the bonds that interscholastic athletics has the ability to develop. And Mr. John Simino, who, as I mentioned before, does a little more than just answer emails. What he's done in the high school is something that I have not yet seen in my career. And Mr. Nigel and I talk about it quite a bit when we're at football games and talking about just the different pieces of connectedness and the different ways that kids can stay connected to their schools. And if any of you have been to a football game, and I've seen a lot of these kids here in the various theme dress of the night, can attest, we have approximately 100 student athletes on the football team. We also have members of the marching band that come to every game. We have students that come out to support the folks in the marching band and the folks in the football team. And on any given Friday night, you could have approximately 50% or higher of the student population from Berners High in the stands, on the field, contributing to the success of the football program. You also have 100 or so middle school kids that run around in the back, but we haven't calculated them into the figures. But it is very much a community event. Recently, we had the class of 1973 celebrate a momentous reunion at a football game on site. And it was great to be able to kind of host and meet them in that sort of environment. And John, I'll tell you, you do more than answer emails. You've developed a culture here. In the interest of accuracy, I believe you're up to about 107 or 108 wins, but who's counting? I know you have about 4 more to go. And I wanted to take a moment to, for the board and for myself, to honor your work, John, to honor Dave's loyalty to you, and for Mr. Simino's work here in the district as a volunteer for the program. All 3 of you are leaving with a certificate as well, so you have to come up. So come on up.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to continue on in my superintendent's report. For those that are here just for the recognitions, that does satisfy the recognition part to the evening, and certainly you all can stay. Certainly some of you, like Mr. Nigel, have an early alarm clock tomorrow, and so I can certainly wish you good night if that's in your agenda.
Come with me now.
Yeah. So there's your opportunity. All right.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you.
Take care, guys. All right. Good luck this weekend. this month we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, and we have an initiative that is really a full year initiative for us to develop a repository of what we call an opportunity for us to reap our heritage, and that will allow us to for students to reflect upon their heritage, their upbringing, what are the traditions in their cultures, by doing a variety of things through essay writing, through creating art and writing poetry. And this will serve us well into the future as we dive into the 24-25 school year through student activities and displays and announcements, and being able to connect in our instruction to different types of cultures. So this is some beautiful work that's being conducted by Mr. Catelli, and in addition to a host of our staff throughout the district. So not only do we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, but we build for the future as well. So wanted to update the board on that. There's been some, in the area of news, we have a girls volleyball program here at the high school, which is very successful. We have a significant amount of girls that are participating in volleyball, and even more that want to. We continue to examine that particular program and how that can contribute even deeper and broader in the high school context. And so they have been in the news, and they kind of started from scratch and from their program. And you see from time to time that programs are brought in and they become very popular. And oftentimes you're in the position where you want to grow that program as well down the line. So we have some information in the news that was covered by the Bernardsville News that we're very happy to highlight the great work that's being done by the coaching staff and by the students as well. We had a Bernards High School student who was named an everyday hero, and Jenna is certainly a student leader here at Bernards High School, and she was covered in an article for October by the Bernardsville News as well, and she has an article in the newspaper about her, which is always great to see. The school district celebrated Farm to School Week. Last month, we highlighted the work that was done at the middle school, and those kids had great fun. And I will say, the best part of the middle school day was seeing those kids walk home, brown bags in hand, down Senior Drive, and walking in the front door with all sorts of vegetables for mom and dad who probably weren't banking on that. And my only regret is that there was an early run on the peaches, and I didn't get one. So it was really well done. We partner with our food services through Mascios. They lead this work, and it's incumbent upon me to highlight the role that Mrs. DeMarco has in that as well. So this was covered by the Bernardsville News, and the kids really get engaged in it. And I can't underscore enough that a quality meal and a quality diet does produce quality kids and great results, certainly. We talked at great length about the high school students, but they were covered in the local press as well for every accolade that we discussed on the advanced placement tests. We opened the Bernardsville Middle School Media Center. That was great fun. We did involve our Culture and Climate Committee at the middle school, and those are our young people who really we built this for. And the Media Center, for those of you that in the audience that haven't been there, is a beautiful space. It's flexible seating, and I say that it's flexible, but flexible enough for middle school. So it's not too flexible, but it gives us some breathing room. It's not quite the high school as far as flexibility goes, but it does give the media center specialist a lot of different options, and there's some opportunity for breakout rooms there. There's a mini cafe like there is at the high school, and there's some great seating areas. And probably the best part about that day, besides being finished, was like watching the kids for the first time go and fiddle around with where they wanted to sit, and did they like how this seat felt, and because it was a middle school, there was the kid rolling his chair like across the room, which just makes perfect sense. So it's a beautiful space. We're starting to host events in there, and it was very tastefully done. And again, that was covered by our friends at the Bernardsville News as well. Somerset Hills Education Foundation is back in action. They're going through a renaissance, and we have our partners here from Chef tonight, and they have an exciting event that they're planning out in Peakback Gladstone. I believe it's a dog parade combined with ugly sweaters. All pets welcome. Okay. I did share with some colleagues that I don't have a dog and I don't think I have an ugly sweater, but I'll be there. So I have a petless home, but I'll be there, and it's in early December. Okay. Working on early December, and the foundation was covered by Tap Into Bernardsville and Bedminster, and you can certainly go onto their website. It's chefnj.com.org. Okay, chefnj.org, and lots of great information there, future events, donations, and you get to learn a little bit about their mission. So it's great to have community partners, and it's great to have some renewed interest in the success of the district and supporting our students every step of the way. Earlier this month, I was in attendance for an event at a local temple in Bridgewater, which spoke to handling the rise in anti-Semitism in public schools. This was an event that was initially announced early in the school year. We did sign up for it. I did attend with Mrs. Frenda, Mrs. Butler, Mrs. Garofalo she's our middle school principal, and also our security specialist, and we learned about these matters in a deeper context through the New Jersey Civil Rights Division, through the Office of the U.S. Attorney in their civil rights work, and also through the Anti-Defamation League. And it was certainly with the international events that are rippling all over the world, including Somerset Hills. We certainly learned a lot regarding the matters internationally. We learned a lot about the matters locally. Certainly we learned about their impact on some of the students that we serve and the residents that we serve as well, that we call partners. So probably our biggest takeaway from that night, particularly from the panel, was the concepts of being able to define what anti-Semitism is, educate those folks on how to combat it, acting and reporting. The board does have policies and procedures with respect to combating bias crimes and with respect to combating bias-related acts in our schools. We also have a policy with respect to harassment, intimidation, and bullying that we follow very stringently. And we also work intimately closely with our local police departments. And we have a memorandum of agreement that was written by the Attorney General for the state of New Jersey that gives police departments and local school districts direction on how to handle a host of items, particularly or specifically in this case, matters of bias. that may arise in schools. So it was a productive night, and certainly it behooves me to alert the board regarding my attendance there and the district's presence there, particularly given the current state of international affairs. Girls tennis, this is fresh off the press here at the high school yesterday. North 2, Group 2 sectional champions, the high school tennis team. They go down to Mercer County this week, and they continue through the Group 2 state tournament. So let's see how things go. It seems that the state of tennis is alive and well in Somerset Hills. It seems that most of the team are underclassmen. There's only one senior, so we may be talking about them in the future as well, which is great. Facilities and operations and capital projects over at the high school. We are engaging in a study for our lower fields, so that's baseball, softball, and some auxiliary fields in the lower part underneath the stadium. They will ultimately develop short-term and long-term solutions for those facilities. And what we've done at this point is we've engaged with an engineer, and we're working through that process with them. The board will have likely some information and a motion for a contract approval for some deeper work by that engineering firm, potentially in November, if not December. But we are certainly moving through that process. We've had some on-site discussions and visits with them, including our architects as well. So we have a partnership between our architects and an engineering firm as it relates to that particular area of the high school facility. In the area of transportation, we're in the process of hiring an additional driver. We did begin our after-school club runs at the high school and at the middle school. We are transporting our athletics. That continues. Right now, we're at about an 85% fill rate at the middle school, and we've been able to satisfy the work at the high school at 100%. We continue to develop our budget for the next fiscal year, which is right around the corner. And last month, we discussed hazardous routes, and that is still an area that we are examining, more so as a priority for the following year's budget. We have identified all the various hazardous routes that currently are not being transported, particularly in Bernardsville, and we look forward to working through that process with the board as we develop our next spending plan. Just following up on the community room discussion from last month, we are upgrading our sound equipment in here so we can go back to live streaming. At the end of the day, our equipment just became a bit old and obsolete, and we ran into a little bit of a quality control issue. So going through the solicitation of quote process at this point, and we hope to have some more information shortly. Last week, we had a presentation by a gentleman named George Scott. He presented over at Bernardsville Middle School. He represented a group that focuses around traumatic loss. He's also a family and marriage therapist, and he offered a talk for the community, and we had a great turnout. It was very therapeutic in a lot of ways, very affirming in a lot of ways, and certainly educational. As we parent through a digital world, he talked about a host of things with respect to how to guide our children through trauma, how to guide them through struggle, how to set them up to struggle appropriately, how to console, how to read, and ultimately how to develop strong partnerships with our kids. And it was very, very well received and sponsored by the Traumatic Loss Coalition of Somerset County. And for those of you that aren't aware, the Traumatic Loss Coalition is the group that would assist the district in any response to tragedy, student death, faculty member death, any community-based tragedy. It's a team of folks that essentially facilitate our young people and our staff members and adults through the process of grieving and on-site in real time. So I unfortunately have had a lot of experience in that, and the value of a county-based traumatic loss coalition cannot be underscored enough. It's a critical partner in the district. You hope you never need them, but Mr. Scott is somebody who I think did a great job presenting, and the middle school hopes to have him back for future engagements as well. Bedwell had a successful week of respect. We had Mrs. Dooley, who was our school counselor over there, did some beautiful work doing a character ed kickoff, had a host of student-centered activities, and it was just a great day. I happened to have a meeting with Mrs. Allen on Superhero Day, and I didn't get the memo that I needed to dress up as a superhero that day, but Mrs. Allen did, and I saw her in a, I forget what it was, but it was a full costume. So the kids really got a kick out of it, and they were super happy. October is typically the month where we partner with our local fire departments for Fire Safety Week, and this year is no different. We had some folks from Bernardsville and also from Bernards Township, and we started COGAT testing as well. We did that completely online, which will facilitate some quick data. Students tonight from the middle school spoke about their team day, their first team day of the year, and I was over at the middle school, and it was a hoot. It was like nothing I've ever seen, and I mean that in the most positive, awesome way. Every single kid was locked in, completely locked in for over 3 hours. Now, I have been a middle school principal. I have never held my entire student body in one space for 3 hours. And they were completely dialed in, bought in, and just having a great time. We have some photos up there, tug of war, faculty versus kids, which was kind of the highlight of the morning. But every event that the teachers designed was better than the one before. It was just a riot, and there was some acknowledgement for the physical education staff over at the middle school from the kids, and I will tell you, they did a wonderful job setting that up, and from top to bottom, it was a great experience for me to see, and it does underscore the importance of relationships that kids have with each other, and the importance of relationships that kids have with the adults that work with them, and it was very cool to see. Looking ahead, working closely with the policy committee, we have a host of items that we're looking at. We're examining our booster club policy, our student fundraising policy, and we also have some other policies that the committee is considering at the committee level, and we're going to continue that work the week of October 30th. We're going to be beginning and restarting our work in the area of special education parent advisory groups, which is an important way to develop partnerships with the folks that we're serving in the area of special education. You all as a board have a week or partial week of training on the week of the 23rd, and our long-range facility planning is in the appointment making stage, where we will conduct school walkthroughs with the administration shortly as we get into November. We will have some focus group work in the area of athletic lights, and those will have some site visits accompanied in that process. High school sports is continuing through county, sectional, and state playoffs, which is a very exciting time of year to be a student here at the high school, to follow your classmates or to even play yourself in some of these activities and games and such. Middle school play is coming up shortly. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. National Honor Society is coming up shortly as well, and our task force reports will continue into the early winter. As you recall, we're looking at task force specifically in the area of athletics, 6 to 12, student activities, and student wellness, and with the intent and the goal to inform our budget process for fiscal year 25. High school fall play is coming as well, and you'll get some information about that, about how to buy tickets, and we'll kind of push that out to the community as well. And, Ms. President, that does culminate the superintendent's report for this evening.
Just going to scooch back over. Okay. Okay, and just before we completely leave that, I hope it's okay if I take a little indulgence on behalf of the board here, just to express a little bit of awe over the recognitions that took place this evening on behalf of our students, on behalf of our staff, both in and outside of the classroom. Clearly, nothing happens here without the talent of the staff that we employ and the excellent outcomes that our students are displaying. And I mean, some of the groups and things that these students have founded and worked on makes me feel like I really have not accomplished all that much at this point in time. So just a tremendous note of awe and gratitude to all involved. Thank you so very much. And with that, we are going to move into the public comments section. We very much welcome public input. Public comments are welcome at this time on any actionable agenda item. Towards the end of the meeting, there is a second public forum on any topic. Please state your name and address. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, but an individual may speak a second time after all others who wish to speak on the topic have been heard. Please understand that our public forums are not structured as question and answer sessions, but are offered as opportunities to share your thoughts with the board. In instances where the board feels that there is a misunderstanding or inaccuracy, the board president or superintendent may address the comment. In accordance with New Jersey statute, the board will not discuss matters regarding specific personnel. Public comments will be limited to 30 minutes. And as is my usual reminder, Mr. Marco will start her timer. When a speaker begins, it will go off at 3 minutes and the speaker will be interrupted, just as a reminder to take a pause so that anyone else who wishes to speak can come to the podium. And then if you have a statement to complete, you can do so once everyone else has spoken. And with that, staff comments.
Before we go to public comment, I just want to note that we have a retiree here.
Yes, okay.
Go ahead. Can we do that? Yes, please. Whereas Deborah Rodenbach has been employed from November 2013 through December 2023 as secretary, and whereas she exemplified expertise, commitment, and professionalism in her duties, and now therefore be it resolved that the Somerset Hills School District and Board of Education recognize Deborah Rodenbach's retirement effective January 1st, 2024, and extend her congratulations and best wishes for a happy, healthy, and enjoyable retirement.
Thank you, Mr. Granfrey. Something not to be missed, and we thank her for her extensive time here. And public comments. Thank you.
Sorry, very short. Megan Dooley, she, her, school counselor. I'm disappointed to be here to speak once again about Board Policy 5756. For those who don't know, the policy titled Transgender Students is from 2018.
Ms. Dooley, I'm just going to interrupt you. It's not an actionable agenda item?
Except you're approving last month's minutes, are you not? And this directly relates to last month's minutes.
Yes, go for it.
Thank you. For those who don't know, the policy titled Transgender Students from 2018, after Governor Christie signed a law requiring the Education Commissioner to develop guidelines for school districts to protect and best serve their transgender students. The policy directly reflects the NJDOE guidance that came from that law and also mirrors NJ's law against discrimination. Last winter, for 3 consecutive meetings, one board member brought up this policy in the form of lengthy prepared statements and framed around bathroom use. I expressed concerns at that time as I worried that with the onslaught of anti-LGBTQ+ and specifically anti-trans legislation being proposed and passed around the country, and all of the hateful and dangerous rhetoric specifically around transgender rights, that calling such attention to this policy was stirring up unnecessary fear in the community and unfairly targeting our district's trans and non-binary students. Last month, this same board member once again brought up 5756, this time to question the section of the policy that states that, quote, there's no affirmative duty for any school district staff member to notify a student's parent or of the student's gender identity or expression. It's no coincidence that this was brought up at a time when boards of education throughout this state are voting to repeal policy 5756 despite legal action from the state's attorney general. Recent annual Trevor Project surveys continue to tell us that LGBTQ+ youth seriously consider suicide at a much higher rate than their peers, and the numbers are highest for trans and non-binary students. For context, this year's survey showed that 41% of LGBTQ+ youth seriously considered suicide. The survey also showed that about half of trans and non-binary youth found their schools to be affirming, and those who did reported lower rates of suicide attempts. Safe schools quite literally save lives. I'm appalled that there are adults in this district, and particularly adults who have been elected to our Board of Ed, a group of public officials who take an oath and follow a code of ethics that includes a duty to, quote, make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing. These adults who continue to target some of our most marginalized students in the name of drumming up fear around parental rights and thereby garnering votes. I want our students to be informed citizens, but I have spent the better part of the last few years hoping that they are not watching these board meetings and not listening, as the very real children that Policy 5756 seeks to protect are being used as political pawns. I hope if any of these students are paying attention that they know that there are also adults in this district, staff members, parents, others who will always support them and stand up for their rights to safe schools.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dooley. Thank you.
I'm Michelle Dooley, she, her, 8 Olcott. I have 3 kids in the district. They're grades 4th, and 5th. I'm curious why the rights of the transgender community are brought up at these meetings. They've done nothing wrong and they do not pose a threat in any way. These past 2 years, I'm concerned that people keep bringing up issues that are not in fact a problem in our district. Each time you talk about the LGBTQ community, it's targeting an already marginalized group. Words matter and they hurt. According to the Trevor Project, fewer than 40% of young people find their own home to be LGBTQ affirming. It's also important to note that having at least one accepting adult can reduce the risk of suicide among LGBTQ young people by 40%. We can be that adult. Please leave our LGBTQ families and children alone. Please stop talking about the transgender community. It's hurting our youth in more ways than you know. Maybe we keep circling back to trans rights because it's a subject you're unfamiliar with. I know we all care about education, and therefore we need to educate ourselves. I encourage you to check out Garden State Equality. There's a person who provides training on safe schools and the inclusive curriculum. He/they is a transgender man, and I think it's best to learn from people's lived experiences. I will email the board with some educational opportunities. I, as well as many others in the community, feel we need to better use our time to focus on the needs of our district. I've talked to teachers and parents, and here are some common concerns. How can we better support our multilingual learners? In what ways can we improve technology in our classrooms? How do we provide breakfast to those who need it? Everyone is in this room is here because they care about our community. Everyone is taking time away from their jobs and families to be here. So as we meet each week, please, let's stay focused on the needs in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dooley. Is there anyone else?
Robert Weibel, Gladstone, New Jersey, just a guy. Anyway, I keep hearing this come back to this protection of the LGBTQ. I don't think anybody on the board is against protecting, protected classes that need to be protected. We got those policies. I think the issue that everybody's missing with this thing, and some of the speakers that have come up here and talked about this in the past, because I've been here for those meetings, I've heard that, is we keep bringing up this suicide rate. Well, I'd like to remind the board that they also have an affirmative obligation to notify the parents if the kid's suicidal. So everything I keep hearing is that the reason why we're protecting them is because they're suicidal. Well, you still have an affirmative obligation to tell the parents that their kid's suicidal. So thereby, you would be telling them why they're suicidal. The other thing I've heard about, and by the way, some of those studies, and please don't interrupt me, some of those studies that you talked about, they're small sample sizes. I've read them. So, if you have a larger one, I'm running for the board of ed. You can find my email address and send it to me and correct me. The second thing is one of the things we talk about is that we're worried about the kids when they go home, that they don't want to tell the parents because of something that goes on at home. If that kid is telling you that, then again, the board and whoever, not the board, but I'm sorry, the superintendent or the principal, whoever's dealing with that child, has an affirmative obligation under another policy to go tell the police. So you're going to have to do this anyway, and that's why these lawsuits are going against them. And if you've read some of the cases like I have, the defense, the reason why they're doing this is because there's two policies conflicting with each other. So, you can cite studies, you can cite this or whatever, and you're trying to protect kids. But ultimately, if you're trying to protect the kids and you're worried about them being suicidal, you need to protect the kids. If you're worried about them being beaten by their parents at home, you need to protect the kids. So eventually, the parents are going to find out. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments at this time?
Hi, it's me, Nat Hill again. 1 Donley Lane, a resident of Berners-Ville for about 11 years now. Related to the subject at hand, I want to just say thank you out loud to those teachers that got involved in my life when I was in danger and saved my life and did it in a way that I felt was respectful. Whatever the laws, regulations were, I am a survivor because of them. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Nope. Okay, can I get a motion to close public comment, please? Ms. Nathans, Ms. Santoro, second. Thank you. Okay. Okay, and on that, we will move on to the approval of minutes. I would like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes. Ms. Rye, and a second? Ms. Cooper, is there any discussion regarding the minutes? No? Okay, then Mr. Marco, roll call, please.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Yes.
Mrs. Frenda?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on now to Mr. Baker and the report of the Finance Committee.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met not last week, October the 3rd. We've been doing this for so long as now it's 2 weeks ago. The Finance Committee met for 45 minutes on October the 3rd. All committee members were in attendance along with Dr. Proschel and Mrs. DeMarco. We talked about 5 items. The first item has sort of been covered by the superintendent in his report. We talked about transportation update, and, we're now able to get 85% of our middle school athletes to their away games whenever required. We're hoping to get to 100% eventually. We also talked about the need to hire a new bus driver and a new paraprofessional bus driver, and they're on the agenda on item number 6 on the personnel. And the board was, the committee was supportive of that, so we can meet all our transportation needs. Next item was the new media center at the middle school. We've all seen it. We've talked about it, but after using it for a while, there's three pieces of furniture that the staff would like to add. So that's a cost of $8,900, and we can afford that because the middle school media center was put in under budget, so that's good. So we're going to go ahead and approve that expenditure. We also talked about the preliminary audit results. As we talked about in the last meetings, the auditors are done. They're going through their reports, doing all that kind of thing. And we focused mostly on the capital reserve because we have a lot of capital projects that are coming up. And so we finished the last school year at about $6 million in capital reserve. We've transferred $2.2 million of that into this year's budget to help pay for the upcoming track project, which will be about $1 million. We also talked about the possible installation of lights on the field, and the boards will need to talk about this more if we ever decide to put the lights in, and we're working through all that, and Dr. Brochel talked about that, is how to fund it. There's 2 ways to fund it probably. One is to take it out of our capital reserve. The other way is to do a lease purchase agreement, and the reason that would make sense is, as some of you may or may not know, our energy savings improvement plan, which was done 15 years ago, nobody was here except me for that project. We spent a lot of money, and all that debt is coming off of our books next year. So that's, we're normally paying $250,000 to $300,000 in debt for all the energy improvements we did for the boilers, the lights, the gas. It was a lot of things. So that means we can now continue with paying $250,000 to $300,000 on lights and for 5 years. That way we could do a lease purchase for the lights just like we do on the school buses. So that's one way. So as we get into the budget for next year, we can talk about that a little further, but just so the board keeps that in your mind, it's a way to fund it. And that way we wouldn't deplete our capital reserve, and we could use it for other projects. The next item we talked about, it was the poor quality of the audio in this room, and we apologize for that. We've gone through several sets of microphones, so we got an initial bid, and the committee felt it was too high, and we're going to get some other bids. We post the film tomorrow. There's discussions whether it should be live streamed or not, but since we're not talking to people live streaming at the moment, it's more important to fix the microphone so we can get good sound quality tomorrow. So the board will look for those quotes, and hopefully we can get some better microphones and sound equipment. The last item was, we talked about our special law enforcement officer. We had one retire last year, and Dr. Brochel has been interviewing people, and hopefully we'll get one to start soon. And right now we're paying $35 an hour. We have a yearly contract with the borough, so we feel that we should raise that to be competitive with the other schools around us. So we'll be working on the exact amount when we get toward the end of the year, because we sign a contract with the borough on a yearly basis, not like on a calendar basis, not on a school basis, okay? And that's it. I'll turn the floor back to Mrs. Frenda.
Okay, thank you very much. I will then ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 through 9 on the agenda. Ms. Tober, second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Baker, and is there any discussion?
I have a quick question. Do we know how many people were live streaming?
So last month there were about, it vacillates between about 150 and 250 as far as the viewership goes. But I don't have accessibility data for the actual timestamp between like when the board meetings took place. But there's about between 150 and 250 people have been accessing the videos.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? No? Okay, then roll call, please.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes, abstain from 9.
Mrs. Tober?
Yes.
Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. De Grandpré?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, and then moving on to facilities and operations. Mrs. Santoro, please.
Thank you. Once again, I'm going to be able to go through this quickly because most of what we spoke about has already been covered by Dr. Broschel or Mr. Baker. So we talked about the baseball fields and the work that needs to be done with regards to the fields. And Dr. Broschel explained we'll be embarking on a short-term and a long-term project with regard to those fields. Immediately, we just want to get them, ensure that they remain playable for the spring season coming up. And then we will look to the engineer's proposal to see what we need to do as far as developing a plan for the long-term solutions for those fields. Transportation, we talked about this every month since September, and what a great place that we're in with bringing all of our transportation in-house, being able to cover some of our middle school games. I know that's going very well, and everyone seems to be thrilled with that. We are going to start the pavement testing on the track, and the motion to approve that is on the agenda. And Dr. Broschel already touched on that we are going to be planning the second community meetings regarding permanent lights. These will likely be conducted in the November timeframe and will likely be held as small group discussions so that all voices can be heard from the community. One of our board members had some concerns with regards to the amount of time that students have to eat at BMS. So we talked about that. The administration feels that it is going well, but we'll continue to monitor that over the year just to make sure that everybody is getting an opportunity to eat their food in a relatively civil manner. So with that, I will turn it back over.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I would like to ask for a motion to approve action items number 1 and 2 on the agenda. Ms. Cooper and Ms. Nathan, second. Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion?
I'll just say that being the food guy, I appreciate Dr. B sitting in on lunches in the middle school and checking in the procedural side of it. I really appreciate it. And it's something small, but big enough.
Anybody else? Okay, then roll call, please.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. De Grandpré?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yeah.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, Ms. Cooper, report of the curriculum committee, please.
The curriculum committee met Tuesday, October 3rd for an hour and a half. All committee members attended, as did Dr. Broschel, Dr. Butler, and Mr. Catelli. We devoted most of our meeting to discussing the curricular needs of our multiple language English language learners, or MLLs. Mr. Catelli joined our meeting to provide some updates on the numbers and proportions of MLL students in our district and how these numbers compare to those of neighboring districts and other districts in New Jersey. One of his goals for attending the meeting was to determine what information would be most helpful to present to the entire board and the community in a public meeting. One of the first steps in identifying MLLs is to determine which students speak a language other than English at home. Currently, just under 1 in 5, or 19.7% of students use a language other than English at home in our district. This is up from 19% in 2020. Of those, just under 9% are multi-language learners. In 2020, this number was only 7.8%. Only 16% of New Jersey districts have similarly large MLL populations that represent a similar proportion of their districts. In most districts, most MLLs have had formal education in their dominant language and are usually at or near grade level in that language. As we've discussed in previous meetings, our MLL population is unique. In our district, at least 1/3 of our MLL students have had limited or interrupted formal education. The families of most of these students are originally from a rural farming region in Guatemala that does not provide access to free education. The first language of these families is Mam, an oral-only Mayan language. Mr. Catelli said that it is estimated that it can take at least 7 to 10 years of formal education for children with limited or interrupted education to reach grade level standards. Dr. Butler then discussed the percentage of students who receive a free or reduced lunch in our district. Currently, 15.1% of students in our district receive free or reduced lunches, up from 7 to 8% approximately a decade ago. The vast majority of students who receive free or reduced lunches are also MLLs, or students who have exited the MLL program. The greatest proportion of students who are MLL or on free and reduced lunches are in Bedwell, where 13.8% of students are MLL and 18.7% are on free and reduced lunches. Note that when 20% of students in a district are on free and reduced lunches, the district must provide breakfast for these students. The district is currently exploring options for providing this service in our district. The committee supports these efforts. Next, in response to recent questions and comments from board members comparing our district with those of our neighboring districts, Mr. Catelli provided data on the percentage of MLLs and students on free and reduced lunches of our neighboring districts. In doing so, Mr. Catelli emphasized the uniqueness of our student population. Of the districts commonly cited as our peer districts, including Ridge, Mendham Borough, and Chatham, none are comparable. For example, Ridge's MLL population is 2%, Mendham's is 2.3%, and Chatham's is 0.7%, while SHSD's is more than 4 to 10 times greater at just under 9%. Similarly, while 15.1% of our students are on free and reduced lunches, Ridge has only 1.6% on free and reduced lunches, Mendham has only 0.4%, and Chatham has only 1.7%. Of course, we are not the only New Jersey district that has a large MLL population. However, districts that do have similarly sized MLL populations, such as Linden, Vineland, and Rahway, typically have much larger populations on free and reduced lunch. In these districts, more than half of the population is usually on free and reduced lunches. There are a few districts that have a comparable proportion of MLL populations and students on free and reduced lunches in New Jersey. These include South Hunterdon, Parsippany Troy Hills, and Flemington Raritan, but they are not directly comparable because they are either much larger, like Parsippany, much smaller, like South Hunterdon, or a K-8 only district, like Flemington Raritan. Even among districts with a similar proportions of MLL students and students on free and reduced lunches, our district is unique given the proportion of students with interrupted and formal education and those whose first language is not a written language. Next, Mr. Catelli provided an update on the district's efforts to provide bilingual education to better meet the needs of our MLL students. He and Dr. Butler are forming a committee of administrators designed to help implement bilingual education. This committee will be responsible for budgeting, student placement, scheduling, developing the program and curriculum, and resourcing. As we discussed last month, several administrators are planning to visit several school districts to learn more about best practices in bilingual education, including Franklin, New Brunswick, and Elizabeth. Ultimately, the committee agreed that a presentation on MLL is needed for both board members and the public, but the timing, method, and format of this presentation is still under consideration. Additional information will follow. Next, we reviewed and approved all field trips and professional development requests that have been submitted before the meeting. Mr. Catelli then informed the committee that a social studies teacher at the high school, Mrs. Petrolongo, has been nominated to participate in the inaugural fellowship program for the Teach Asian American Stories, or TAAS, initiative. This program is designed to train a cohort of educators in New Jersey to provide professional development in teaching about Asian American and Pacific Islander history and the contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders to fellow educators. Mrs. Petrolongo was one of only 6 fellows selected for this honor. And our last topic of discussion related to the use of proximity learning to provide continuity of instruction during the leave of absence of a world language teacher. According to Mr. Catelli and Dr. Butler, a world language teacher is on leave through the spring. It has been difficult to find a replacement for the staff member, and to fill this gap, the district will be using proximity learning, an online platform staffed by a live teacher. The teacher will provide live, synchronous instruction virtually to students in the classroom until the staff member returns from leave. The district has had previous success with using this platform. And turning it back over to Mrs. Brenda.
Okay, thank you very much. Can I get a motion to approve action items number 1 and 2 on the agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you. And a second, Ms. Wright? Okay, and is there any discussion? Ms. Gills?
I'm just happy to see that there are a lot of PDs focused on ESL students and how to just have them try to have a more flawless or easier transition into the classroom. So that's very nice. I also want to mention, I know you're going to Elizabeth. They're ranked 12, their high school. We're not. And their summative scores for the 21-22 school year with 81 in ELA and 86 in math, while ours was 48 and 46.9 respectively. So if that's a comparable district, I assume that's why you're going. I wonder where the disconnect is there. Where the disconnect is. How they're ranking in the 80s, or I'm sorry, the summative scores are in the 80s and we're in the 40s. That was 21-22 school year. I can't tell you where they are now. Okay, thanks.
Is there anybody else? No? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
Mrs. Tober? Yes. Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker? Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, and now moving right along to personnel. Mr. Grandpre.
So the Personnel and Policy Committee met on the 4th for an hour and a half. All members were in attendance, as well as Dr. Burchell and Dr. Butler. In regards to personnel, we did do a review of all pretty much that is on the agenda this evening for various salary guide advancements, leave replacements, appointments, and the like that is there. The other piece that we did talk about was in relation to a similar conversation from curriculum in terms of proximity and the challenges with recruiting overall, as we've discussed for the past year, and just that we were looking at all possibilities in terms of recruiting for either leave replacements or for open positions. That is it, Mrs. Brenda.
Okay, wonderful. Can I get a motion to approve action items number 1 through 12 on the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, and a second? Ms. Tober, thank you. And any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Tober? Mrs. Rye?
Yes.
Mr. Baker?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper? Mrs. DeGrandpre?
Yes.
Ms. Gills?
Yes.
Mr. Joyce?
Yes.
Ms. Nathans?
Yes.
Mrs. Santoro?
Yes.
And Mrs. Frenda?
Yes, thank you.
Motion carried.
Okay, and Mr. Grandpre, policy, please.
Okay, in terms of policy, we had extensive discussions about the Booster Club policy and regulation that we've been talking about for the past few months. We talked about how we are looking at enhancements to align with the NJSIAA regulations, as well as was mentioned by Dr. Burchell in terms of how it aligns with our fundraising policy as well. There will be revisions forthcoming. There were discussions around non-sports fundraising and booster clubs, and those were addressed as well in terms of that there are not many booster clubs for non-sports, but that they are a possibility, and the majority of that fundraising does fall under the normal student fundraising policy. The committee was in support of the policy changes that are drafted, but did make some recommendations to administration to bring back in terms of a few minor tweaks, as well as seeking out community feedback from our current booster clubs in terms of the functionality and whether or not it would cause any major problems for them or anything that we could work on with them in the future. We did also have the policy 5756 relating to transgender students that was brought up by committee members as well for discussion there. And the discussion surrounded the legal aspects of having a policy, as well as that we were aligned with the discrimination laws and the policies that the DOE recommended in 2018, that the policy does reflect good intent of the board and administration and allows a bit of flexibility in terms of that we are there to facilitate parent involvement and communication when needed. It does not state that we will not notify parents, but it discusses how we can work to help to facilitate that communication with the student. We discussed how it's not unsimilar into how many children may approach major life decisions and may need other adults involved in facilitating those discussions. We also received a decently large packet of all the policies that we will be discussing in next month's meetings that we can begin to prepare for them since it is just 2 weeks away. And we also talked about how we will continue to keep a focus into the winter on the substance abuse policy and potential changes that may be coming in there that we also were discussing during the end of last school year. And with that, Mrs. Frenda, I believe covers everything.
And that is it. There are no motions to be made this month. However, if there's any discussion regarding what was discussed in policy this month. Nope. Okay. Then we will move on to our second public comments period. Public comments are welcome at this time on any topic. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We ask that you please state your name and address. Again, Ms. DeMarco will be starting her timer, and just that 3-minute mark is when I will interrupt. If you're finishing a sentence, I will let you, I will allow that sentence to be finished. However, there will be an interruption for any other speakers that would like to speak to have an opportunity, and then at which time you may return to the podium to finish your statement. And we thank you in advance for your input if there is anyone that would like to approach the podium at this time.
Hi, I'm Holly Emery, but I'm actually reading on behalf of another mom, Michelle Smith, 18 Tilsley Street in Bernardsville. Jim McCarron has served this community for 31 years as Bedwell's beloved art teacher. Up until the past December, he served without incident. It was then that claims were made against him, claims which were unfounded by the state's IAIU. This investigation, according to the reporter from mycentraljersey.com, completely exonerated Mr. McCarron. Why is it that if the investigation led to the state completely exonerating Jim McCarron, did the Somerset Hills Board reassign him to the Olcott building to do, and I quote, menial curriculum work? Why is it that people stood at the podium time and time again in defense of Mr. Mack, and their heartfelt words fell on deaf ears? Concerned citizens asked for the report from the board regarding the situation. 6 months have passed and it has still not been shared. Where is the transparency you claim to have? Why is Jim McCarron, according to the reporter, the only person removed from their teaching position after an IAIU finding of unfounded and sent to the central office in this district? The members of this board claim to have the best interests of the students at the forefront of all they do. How is replacing a veteran teacher with rotating substitutes and having, as the reporter stated, the students coloring every art class rather than learning in the best interest of our students? We all know it is not. The state of New Jersey defines bullying, which creates a hostile educational environment for the student's education or by severely persuasively causing physical or emotional harm. When this is done to a teacher, it's called harassment. That is what the board has done to Mr. McCarron. They have continually harassed him. Although Mr. McCarron doesn't fall into the realm of a student, the rest of the definition of bullying undeniably applies to how he has been treated by the leadership of the board. At the March 7th meeting, according to the article, and I quote, his return was pulled off the agenda. At the next meeting, March 15th, the school board transferred him to the central office without any prior knowledge, contact, or discussion with him. This is the opposite of being transparent. Why was the June 7th meeting rescheduled for June 21st, almost a full week after the 2022-23 school year commenced? Why did the board wait until that meeting to reassign Mr. McCarron back to Bedwell? 3 short years ago, we were calling teachers heroes. Now we try to ruin their character and ruin their reputation. I wouldn't wish anything that you put on this man to any of you, and a couple of things, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to come to the podium?
Robert Weibel, Gladstone. So what Holly just spoke about, I was out here at the April 26th meeting when a lot of teachers came out here and spoke in favor of Mr. McCarron, including one of the parents of the witness to whatever happened in his classroom, asking why is he not back in his classroom. And I wasn't going to speak that night, and you may remember I did actually come up here and speak in favor of him about the hour and 38-minute mark of that meeting. And so this week, or a couple weeks ago, I was roaming around looking up stuff, and look what I found at the Superior Court of New Jersey. A lawsuit filed against the board for retaliation, 2 counts, for defamation, 1 count, for age discrimination, 1 count, and for violations of his civil rights. Now, I said at that meeting, you all may recall, I hope you board members aren't upset about the way he negotiated the contract on behalf of the union, because I was out at those meetings last fall and last summer in 2022, and they did get a little, heated, as you expect. A lot of teachers are out here in support of Mr. McCarron then. But now here we are with a lawsuit, and I was a little surprised to see it actually wasn't on the agenda. Maybe that's another policy. I've only read about 50 of your over 200 policies, so forgive me if that's a policy I missed. But I think it's something that's germane to the board and that they should be discussing it so parents know what's going on, because this was a hot-button topic for several months. As we discussed, we had the March 7th meeting where he got pulled off, and then the board meeting got moved to the June 21st. This isn't like your typical lawsuit. I know the school's been sued in 2019, 2022, 2017 for various things by individuals. But this one's a little bit different. That a teacher did this, and this allegation came on the heels of the negotiations ending. So I hope, I hope the board prevails. But on the other hand, this is really serious stuff, and I think the board should really look at themselves and see what happened. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to come to the podium?
Hey, it's me again, Nat Hill. Hi, Donley Lane. I just wanted to bring a couple of things to your attention, but first of all, I want to thank you for what seems to be an approach to support the English language learners. For some of you who don't know me, I learned to speak English in 2nd grade, and clearly I can't stop. So here we are, and I appreciate all of those efforts, so thank you. I might start talking faster as time goes. But I think it's a shame, I'm ashamed in our school district only because of this one thing currently that I'm aware of. and saddened by the, does everybody know what September was? What are we celebrating in September? Hispanic Heritage Month. My point exactly. So it's embarrassing the way that Hispanic Heritage Month has been, to my knowledge. I apologize if it has been celebrated in any other way that I'm not aware of, but to my knowledge, I'm aware of it at Bedwell, which is a great school. And like we said, with all of our percentages, which I appreciate, Ms. Cooper, we have a huge Spanish-speaking community, unlike others. And the way that I saw this was celebrated was by posting 4 or 5 books by Spanish authors on the Bedwell website, a virtual library that you could look at if you wanted to. That was it. The other way that I saw this celebrated was by reaching out directly to our teacher in kindergarten and offering to speak and read a bilingual text book to the children that was relevant to what it was that they were studying in school, and explain to them funny things that they can remember forever, like next time you look at a chicken banana, see that it's made in Costa Rica or has come from Costa Rica, because most of your fruit. I have parents sending me text messages laughing that their kids, like, all the fruit is made in Costa Rica, and they just can't make them stop. So anyway, my time is up soon, but that was just one main thing I wanted to highlight. The efforts to support the Spanish-speaking community sound great. They sound great on paper, and I so appreciate Mr. Catelli and whomever is involved to put together a committee that is going to address and understand some of these needs, etc. Bernardsville Spanish community is not new. I don't understand why that wasn't in place before. Perhaps I just don't know. I'm not aware. Maybe the efforts were failed and whatnot. But rather than looking at other communities, also, if anybody else wants to talk so I can have 3 more minutes, that'd be great. Rather than looking at other communities locally, I think it's important to ask your local community, the Spanish-speaking community, what we're looking for and what we need.
Okay, just 1 second. Is there anybody else who would like to come to the podium?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, nope. Okay, Ms. Amira.
Oh, perfect.
Hi, I'm Christine Zamara, 28 Anderson Hill Road. I just want to commend the information about Mom, the Guatemalan language. And I think it might, I know you all have access to the internet just like me, but there's so much information about schools in other parts of the country that are dealing with the same languages, Mayan languages, and the top ones are Oakland, California, and I think there's a couple in Virginia. It's not just here, is what I'm saying, and I really want to commend you guys for working on, getting to the root of the languages and helping those children succeed by incorporating their language into the daily classrooms would probably help them feel more comfortable in school. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? No.
Of course.
Hi, me again. Can't stop speaking English since 2nd grade. Nat Hill, Donley Lane once again. Another thing that I was wanting to speak about with regards to looking into other school districts, whether they are comparable or not in the grades based on standardized testing and otherwise. Again, I think if you would just make an effort, if this is already in place, great. If it's already in mind, great. But I want to highlight that I think it's really important to develop some sort of an outreach directly to the community, not just our Spanish-speaking community or English language learner communities, but I did meet last week, surprisingly on the same day it all worked out, with various individuals, directors and so on in our community, from the YMCA to our local library to the school district, If anybody knows Maria from La Tienda de Maria, I don't anticipate anybody else might, but there is a little shop down in Spanish Hub at Bernardsville, and Maria is a great resource to the community also, and has been very helpful in helping connect with families that are looking for support. So maybe our efforts don't need to necessarily be put into how far out can we go and see what somebody else is doing in a very obviously Spanish-speaking area or multi-language area. It's right here. The information you need about our community and what our community needs is here. You just need to ask, and you got to ask the right people and get the right people in place. Us Hispanics, we move in packs. My Costa Rican people are all in Summit, New Jersey. Apparently, a lot of Guatemalans are right here in Bernardsville. So there's something to be said about that. Why are they coming to Bernardsville? Does anybody know that? What attracts the Hispanic-speaking community to Bernardsville? Okay, so starting right there, I mean, we're trying to solve something, but we don't even know what the first reason why these people are in this awesome town is, other than hearsay, because they trust each other. You know, there's no red tape in the Spanish-speaking community. We tell each other all the things. We find somebody to latch onto. That has been me for whatever reason, thank God, or otherwise. You know, and they trust you. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to approach you. If they don't trust you, they're not going to voice their opinions, their concerns. This goes for us. This goes for the school district. This goes for the police, the fire, everybody. If they don't trust police because they think they're going to be deported because they don't understand the law, they're not going to come out of the woodwork. So you'll never know what their fears or needs are. I asked a lot of these families, what is the reason that you haven't reached out or found support or, you know, are wondering about in general, and they said, I don't know where to look. I don't have anyone to translate. I don't know that a resource exists. I feel that the district doesn't take me into account. I don't have a way to attend events or parent-teacher conferences. I don't have a car. I don't have anyone to take care of my children because my husband and I work 24/7. Children are left home alone sometimes. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly Hunt, Valentine Road in Bernardsville. I just wanted to address what you mentioned about Hispanic Heritage Month. I feel absolutely positive that my kids are at Bedwell. I feel absolutely positive that our wonderful teachers are addressing it. And we have also a librarian who is potentially the most amazing. I mean, you're all amazing. All of the teachers are amazing. But Darcy Bruton is on maternity leave. And when I have sat through her lectures, I have been brought to tears. I mean, she's an amazing teacher. So I just have to say that, like, you know, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not happening. It really, really, really endorse all of our teachers and their skills. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you. Actually, can I say one more thing? Sorry. The Dooleys spoke, and I just also wanted to add my name to what they said. They said it so much better than I could, but, you know, bravo. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else at this time?
Now, this is me. My name is Holly Emery, and I'm from Locust Drive in Bernardsville. I just want to bring to your attention a matter that I feel should have been handled with really great care. So when we first moved to Bernardsville, we knew no one, and we were very blessed to have a teacher that embraced my eldest daughter, Sierra. Her art teacher, who coupled with her then third grade teacher, Mr. A, made our lives just absolutely fabulous, tranquil, I mean, just the best, along with all the other teachers that we were able to meet here. We often ran into this gentleman at the gym where I used to work. He was amazing. He was kind. He had a daughter who happened to be the same age as my middle one, Celia, and they became fast friends. Julia, his daughter, who was a highly skilled Irish dancer, actually got my daughter involved with Irish dances, classes, and feshes over the years. I was able to meet and become friends with his wife, Anne. We have been able to do family together, been over to each other's homes, and now our daughters are both graduating, and Celia considers Julia one of her best friends still. We truly have been blessed to have Mr. Mack not only as a teacher for all three of my children, but in art camp as well. Mr. Mack, his wife Anne, son James, daughter Julia, and Kira, who have all been part of our lives and most of our children's lives. We just can't understand for the life of us why Mr. Mack and his family had to go through this awful time, putting his life, his livelihood, and the lives of his family, Anne, James, Kira, Julia, and their parents, the grandparents, at risk. And undue stress. Can anyone imagine what that looks like for 6 months of just pure torture, not to mention the impact on the other families that had to endure and put their children through so that they could testify on behalf of Mr. Mack, and there are no answers. I want you to think that you guys get to go home every night, you have dinner with your family, you have enjoyable times, whereas this was not happening to him during this time, and it was very, very stressful for him, his children, and the rest of their families. I feel that the board neglected to address the community, our community, and the board neglected our children and their academics in the process. At this time, we still haven't heard anything from the board regarding the injustice of our beloved Mr. Mack, our community. At the time, it feels like they took the care and the teaching and the academics away for our children, and we were focusing on other things. It's really disheartening to know that we failed one of our teachers, one of our families, one of our friends. It concerns me that we didn't support our teacher, which can only demonstrate that we most likely won't support other teachers. I just felt that we were failing our students, and we need to fully support our teachers. We are also obviously failing, we're falling in our rankings again. Our HIP cases are on the rise. I just don't understand what we're waiting for. So I just implore and ask you guys to really, really take this into consideration, and hopefully there's something in place to help. Our parents that have a voice in our community are afraid to come and speak their concerns, even their appreciation for what the board does.
Ms. Emery, I just want to state for the record that there are items that the board is unable to discuss as they relate to personnel matters, litigation. So you had asked for a position or some information from the board, and I just wanted to clarify that that's why you don't have that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be back up.
All right. Oh, wait. We have someone else.
Hi, Sama Habibi, Gladstone. I'm here because I'm just kind of shocked that we have board members and old board members, members of the community coming up here and saying, what a terrible district we have, how our numbers are low, comparing us to districts that are not attainable. Chatham and Bernardsville are completely different planets. And I'm shocked. I'm shocked that, in the Bernardsville News, we have board members stating that our schools are bad. That's really embarrassing as a board member to say that. Maybe you're not aware of what's going on in your committee meetings. I don't know. I'm concerned. And also, I know you're new to Bedwell, but there's parents who have been very involved within our English language learners community. It started out way back when with Sam, and then there was a couple of parents that took over. We have made many attempts to set up meetings in the church. I forgot the name of the church in Bernardsville. Pastor Dan has been a big part of our community. So I'm not really sure. Your perspective seems to be like there's nothing happening here, and that is absolutely incorrect from my experiences within the last 6 years in working very closely with Mr. Catali and teachers and private community members. So I'm not really sure what that's all about. I'm also just I'm really kind of bothered with a lot of the propaganda that's being put out there. We have signs that say education, not experimentation. What are we experimenting with? Does anyone know? Are the teachers?
I'm sorry, we can't have dialogue. We can't have dialogue.
We have signs that say make the right choice. I mean, what is that all about? If you feel like you're leaning to the right, please pull your kids out and go to that religious school that you are dying for this district to be. If your politics are so on the right that you are not accepting of everybody, pull your children out. There's many schools in this area that can accommodate your needs. I'm really kind of over all of this propaganda that's being put out there, and then coming up and stating certain things so that you can get, your dog whistles out here, so that you can get your certain voters out there. It's just embarrassing. Please, 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 just get out of this public school. I don't know what you're looking for this school to do. You've already been given the option to opt out. Do it, transfer your kids, and please get out of our lives.
Okay. Thank you. I am just going, before I open it up to anybody else, I'm just going to note that the 3 minutes where you're interrupted, and I should probably add that to my little speech, that's a second time up at the podium. And then everyone gets 2 opportunities at the podium to complete their statements. So I'm going to leave it there, and if there is anyone else that would like to come to the podium who has not yet spoken, we invite you to do so right now.
Felicia Ballard, 46 Prospect Street. Just want to make a few quick comments as we wind down the night in support of what the Dooleys said. I think it's an important point, and I think we need to focus on bigger issues. There's a lot of discussion about our kids' recovery from all the things that happened with COVID. Let's focus. And to the last speaker's point, I have heard the words failing schools used at the school board and in comments, and I think that's terrible. I sent my kids through the school. My youngest son graduated 2023 with a very successful class. We're working hard to meet people where they are. We're a successful school district that has work to do. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Maura McGrail, 36 Stevens Street in Bernardsville. I would just like to publicly say as well that I agree with everything that the Dooleys said, along with Felicia. Really looking forward to these meetings becoming more about what we can do to actually improve our students' education and not be, dissuaded by these other topics that are being brought up that don't impact our kids' education. Last month, we talked about our scores. Let's delve deeper into things like that instead of these miscellaneous topics that don't impact and are just brought up to really defer from what we really need to do. We have a lot of great stuff going on here. There's more that we can do. And I do hope that the board takes into what I said last meeting about delving deeper into our student services, perhaps pulling data of how many families have requested IEP meetings and were immediately denied in the first evaluation, how many families then came back, how many families got private diagnoses, and then a year and a half is wasted, and then it's finally approved. Perhaps, again, if those children had had the education that they needed and the learning the way they needed, our scores would be better. But instead of just saying, I wonder what we can do, please pull the data. The answers are there for you. The answers are also here in the community. We are parents who would love to speak to you more about our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else at this time? It's two times at the podium. Yes, sorry. That's it. Okay. Can I just? Yeah. Mhm.
I got it. Thanks, Ricky. I just wanted to, first, I just want to commend everyone who's here for our kids, which is what it's all about. So I appreciate this big crowd. I appreciate people talking and sharing ideas because I can tell you that that's what all of us are here for. So thank you all. I just wanted to speak to you for a second, Ms. Hill. Thank you for your advocacy. I so appreciate that. I don't know if you were here at the beginning when Dr. Broschel went over a few of the things that were going on this month for Hispanic Heritage Month, but there are things going on, and that's something that we're looking to grow, and including student voices in that. So that's, I think one of the things that's important is that we don't ever want to just stop where we are. We want to keep going. And to that, I also want to say that I want to clarify one thing when you were talking about the committee that we're working with right now. That is a new committee because it is something new that we were looking at, which is a bilingual classroom, which is different than our past efforts. So it's not that this is the first time that we're trying to address concerns. We're looking at things in a different way, which I think is really exciting. I also want to speak back to Ms. Habibi and give it a little shout out, because I know prior to the pandemic, and I think that might be some of the disconnect we see, a lot of the things that were in motion were kind of put on hold during the pandemic. Pre-pandemic, we had a large group of Spanish-speaking families who came monthly to meetings, and we were able to, and I shout out to Ms. Habibi because she was at all of those meetings, doing everything she could to help the community. So, and certainly she was not alone there. But I think those are some of the things that we need to get back to now that we're kind of seeing the light at the end of that pandemic time. So, I appreciate all that you talked about. And I do just want to, I'll follow up with you, Ms. Gill, because I just did just a very fast cursory search, but I'd love to see your data, because the data that I saw was a little bit different in Elizabeth, but you can certainly send me what you have. I'm happy to look at that. Thanks.
Okay. Is there anyone else at this time? Okay. And can I get a motion to? No, this is public comment. I need to get a motion to, we'll do supplementary matters, yes. If I can get a motion to, yes, and a second. Ms. Cooper? Okay, thank you. Okay. And we are going to move, should I turn myself off? No. We are going to move on to supplementary matters. I had just something that I wanted to touch on that Dr. Brochel spoke to in his superintendent's report, that the anti-bias and the anti-Semitism panel that we went to see. I just wanted to, although that was the central topic being discussed there, I just wanted to kind of illuminate a little bit further that with the U.S. Attorney there, with the New Jersey Attorney General and their Civil Rights Division, and with the ADL there was a great deal of conversations regarding bias, period, not just as it relates to anti-Semitism. And Dr. Brochel actually sent out a letter to the community with tremendous resources that were available. So I would encourage everybody to avail themselves of that, because although that was what the panel, was focused on that evening, there was so much relevant information for everyone in there, and it was a fantastic event, and was very grateful to be able to participate in that.
We're doing supplementary matters now, yeah. And I did grapple with, should this come in committee or not, but I just want to say one thing about the policy 5756. So it's going to be short and sweet. It's based on law. We have a policy that our district is doing a really good job of implementing. It protects our district as a whole, our administration, and our staff. And month after month, as we talk about it, I do grapple with the impact that the discussion is having on our students. And as a board member, I would like those students to know that I fully support them. And I believe that this policy is in place to protect all of them and to protect our district and our staff. And I just wanted to state that because that does weigh on me month after we discuss this policy with regards to no issues or nothing that's happening within our district that's problematic. So I did just want to say that. The other thing I wanted to touch on for a moment was the Traumatic Loss and Resiliency Program. That program really hit the mark within this community. It was well attended. The participants, you could just tell, got so much out of it. The presenter was wonderful and really connected, so I don't know if there's a path forward for more with Mr. Scott, but it was fabulous, and the feedback from it, from so many people that attended, they were so grateful. I thought it was just such a wonderful program, and I thank you for I think Mrs. Garofalo arranged to bring that in, and so that was a wonderful program, a wonderful resource for our district, and we've had a lot of challenges in a lot of areas, so I think it was just well done. And any room for more would be great.
Was it recorded?
No.
I would like to respond to Heather. So it is problematic for some people. This issue, the 5756 policy, was brought up last year because a parent approached a board member because their daughter came upon a boy in a girl's bathroom. So it didn't just come out of just smoke. And when you say you support trans students, if the implication is if you bring up this policy, you do not support trans students. Asking questions does not show a lack of support for trans students. I've said it before and I'll say it again, I support trans students. I support all students, and I don't like that implication. I come from a way more diverse background than probably many on this board. But I have some comments prepared that I would like to say that will show that I can address more than just one topic. As I approach the close of my first year as a board member in a few short months, I'm compelled to speak to some pressing issues within our district that demand our collective focus. We must address these challenges rather than deflect or minimize them. During our last meeting, the feat of moderately surpassing the state basic testing averages is cause for prideful recognition and a sense of achievement by some on this board. Now, recognition is due as our district has shown improvement, but we can do better as we are gifted with incredibly talented and motivated teachers. I hope we reach a level where a large majority have, at a minimum, reached or exceeded expectations. How do we fare when compared to other districts? According to the New Jersey BOE 2021-22 summative rankings, CHS held a concerning 46th position statewide. Unfortunately, this ranking is not an outlier. U.S. News and School Data placed VHS simultaneously at 65th and 66th, respectively. And despite being the highest taxed community out of 21 towns that comprise Somerset County, according to NewJersey.com, in May, another private ranking service, Niche, ranks us as the 5th best high school in our city. Most expensive tax load, 5th best high school. It is with great hope that this ranking will improve some given our latest state testing results. Earlier in 2023, when I presented these figures at a board meeting, the primary response was sheer disbelief. My sources were immediately questioned, yet these numbers are accurate. As the former superintendent once cited, some of my colleagues argue that these rankings are skewed due to demographic variation. Bernardsville is socioeconomically different, no less a source than the venerable New York Times recently listed our town as New Jersey's 6th wealthiest in the state. Our tax rates exceed most communities in the state, and we rightly offer some of the most competitive compensation for our devoted teachers. Yet our performance is seemingly average in some of the academic categories tested by the state. To place blame on our educators, students, or any ethnic group is unjustifiable. The board, the administration, and the New Jersey DOE shoulder the responsibility. We must acknowledge our shortcomings and do better. I see with some of our last summer's added programs and current as well as upcoming academic revitalization efforts that we are hopefully closing in on some better results. However, there are times, I see politics overshadow the students' best interest. The ongoing debate over the health curriculum exemplifies this political impasse. During one of my first meetings and in front of our board's leadership team, a board member proudly and publicly admitted to threatening a colleague with ethics charges over differences in views. Think about that. Politics have so infiltrated the thinking and actions of some that they result in speech-chilling threats. What if this member had moved forward and filed an ethics charge? It would have paralleled with no action outcome seen in Warren, and with thousands of wasted tax dollars spent by the district so a board member could prosecute their personal and political grievances with other members. Beyond new state standards like last year's graphic health curriculum and this year's proposed truth and literacy course, currently under development by the NJDOE, the state demands absolute adherence to controversial policies like Policy 5756 on parental rights and transgender student protection. Over a dozen districts have critically assessed and rejected Policy 5756. In August, during the state's lawsuit against some of these districts, in open court, the deputy AG was compelled to admit that the policy issued during the Christie administration was instructional rather than mandatory. To add to this confusion, a popular private policy writing company, Strauss Esme Associates, initially characterized the policy as N for mandatory. Our district appears to treat Policy 5756 as gospel rather than guidance. I was successfully elected to this board based on a campaign with the simple premise that parents know best. Displacing that belief with the district's enforcement of the policy is impossible. Parents know best, period. No caveats, no exceptions. It's not parents know best except with how to deal with a transgender child, in which case the government is better equipped to handle the situation. If you believe that, as sure as we are sitting here, the list will continue to grow to encompass other topics schools cannot disclose to parents. Bullying by peers, teen pregnancy, physical or sexual abuse by someone outside of the home. The list could be endless. What is the precedent here? What other matters are we instructing our professional staff to keep secret from parents? If a student informs the district that they are transgender and we do not inform the parents, we, as a district, own this delicate and largely uncharted situation. Are we prepared for that to be, are we prepared for that? Because we are legally and morally responsible. What if we fail? How do we explain to a devastated and grieving parent? When we break the news, will someone from the BOE and Governor Murphy's office be by our side? After all, we were merely following state policy and keeping our neighbor in the dark about pertinent information concerning their child. Yes, our friends and neighbors, because when we mindlessly follow policies designed for the whole state, not just our local community, you are legislating solutions to problems that might not exist locally. Boards of education across this country are at a crossroads. We are bombarded with state and national attempts to control local education through the threat of deprived funding. The cornerstone of American public education is local control. We are not elected as rubber stamps from Trenton, DC politicians, or bureaucrats. Each vote taken by a member of this body to adopt a new mandated state curriculum or enforce a new policy is a vote for state control of our local education. And what if we don't mindlessly follow these state mandates? What consequences can we realistically expect? No new state funding or the dreaded state takeover that the new health curriculum proponents promised would occur if we voted down these new standards last year? Districts that rejected the health curriculum have easily and successfully avoided this draconian fate. There may be another way, and it's gaining traction in other districts. Do we need all state funding? And at what point do we confess the money comes at too high a price? And that price is control of our local education. Earlier this year, I'm going to move on. As for Policy 5756, more than a dozen districts are moving to or have repealed it. The state sued some of these districts, arguing that this one non-mandatory policy was indeed intended to be mandatory. These sensible-minded districts are adopting solutions that protect at-risk students with mechanisms at our disposal to deal with endangered children. If that is the case, Governor Murphy's unprecedented infringement on parental rights is now working its way through the administrative courts. We should join the districts in opposing its enforcement. We need board members committed to local control of education. There is no reason for this body or administration to exist if only to carry water for Trenton or Governor Murphy. We need members who won't prioritize politics over ensuring our children indisputably and by all possible respected metrics get the best education possible from hard-earned tax dollars. Now, I have one last paragraph.
This is great.
I'm sorry, there is no audience participation during supplementary matters. Thank you.
It is because of my unwavering and unconditional support of the transgender community that I want those students to have all the love and support they need, and hopefully that begins at home. We need sensible solutions, not designed by Trenton bureaucrats so that any at-risk children remain safe, but our Somerset Hills parents can seek out necessary resources such as counseling support for educational material, benefiting both the child and the entire family. Tonight, as we hear troubling updates of increased violence against innocent Israeli families, our thoughts are especially with the parents enduring the devastation and heartbreak of losing a child. This moment also underscores the privileges and blessings we share from living in our own republic. Families with parents as their cornerstone keep our communities grounded, giving us wisdom, comfort, and unconditional love. Now more than ever, we need to rally around our common values. Let's stand together, united in the face of adversity, honoring the strength of families, especially parents, that bring to our community and society. Thank you.
For our NLL families, could you now read that in Spanish, please?
As I said, there's no audience participation during supplementary matters. The audience had an opportunity to come to the podium, and that is your opportunity to express yourself. I would just like to open it up to anyone else on the board who might have an issue for supplementary matters at the moment. Dr. Brochel.
So, yeah, just to give some closure to tonight's meeting, I certainly think that as a board, you got a lot done. We had a host of areas that we were able to celebrate tonight, which is important, to kind of stop as, you know, as a group and as a district and as a family to celebrate great work and to celebrate great achievement. That's important. It's important in your own homes. It's important in this organization, and it's a hallmark of what I believe, what I espouse, and how I interact with kids and adults and just in the buildings in general. And I think it's important that as a group you recognize the great work that we are doing. Certainly we had kids in here for College Board. You took a big step to begin your due diligence on upgrading the track, which is an important facility, and it's a kind of a long process to get to August, and we took the first step there tonight. There's a lot of support in the area of teaching and learning on this agenda, although we didn't have the deep and robust discussions about it that we do in committee. Teaching and learning certainly was recognized, and the board's commitment from a fiscal perspective to support the various areas of curriculum and professional development is an important ask of me to you. That I ask every month, and it's important that I say, thank you for the support there. So teachers can continue to grow and continue to learn critical skills in order to meet the needs and challenges that are presented to us as a collective every day. And ultimately, you need to understand that we have a lot in common. We come here every day to focus on teaching and learning. We come here every day as a staff and as administration and with your support as a board to make sure that kids are able to learn in safe environments, in supportive environments, and in environments where professional staff and environments where the support staff constantly are focused on kids first. And I've only been here 75 days or so. In my tours around town and the surrounding towns, meeting with folks who don't have kids in school, meeting with folks who do have kids in school, meeting with folks on the municipal side and on the private side, as far as small businesses, there's a deep and connected affiliation to this school district that is to be celebrated. There's a deep and broad partnership in a variety of ways and in a variety of areas, and that's important to me. And some of the folks that I call partners that I've met along the way are in this room tonight. And it's important that you appreciate the level of connectedness that I believe in. And we meet our goals through critical person-to-person interaction. Moving the needle in the area of student achievement is critical. We have wonderful programs here, very strong staff and strong leadership. My assessment is that we need to continue our work, but there are things that I feel like we need to do a little bit differently. I think we need to start looking at ourselves. And so I do believe that all of our practices on the teaching and learning side are to be celebrated, many of them, and there are some approaches that have borne fruit in very similar locales as what the challenge is here. So, as your superintendent, it's important that you know that you have a deep, profound respect for the fact that every single kid means every single kid. And that's the driver. That's what gets me going, is that as a child can come in here and get a great program academically and really get pushed, that we can move the needle in the area of professional development. We can move the needle in the area of strategic goal setting at the school level, and that we can inform the board as far as what the front lines need. It's really important to me, and we're just starting to dive into this work. And, we couldn't be in more alignment based on what I'm hearing from the student achievement perspective. But at the end of the day, I believe in kids. I believe in their ability to move forward. I believe in our ability to create great programs, great outcomes, and you serve such an important piece to that process. Such an important piece. The great work that's done at the committee level is critical here, and it's not lost on me that the passion that the 10 of you have for every kid in this district and to move quality forward is not lost on me. So, I want to thank you for that, and I'm your leader, and I'm not stopping. And so we're going to continue to engage in our work and move the needle forward and create great outcomes for kids. And I just wanted to share that.
I thank you sincerely for putting together those parting words. And as you just did, I would like to bring it back as I close to what we started this meeting with, the celebration that we started this meeting with. The recognition of not just good performance, the recognition of not just above average performance, the recognition of absolutely extraordinary accomplishment on behalf of our students, on behalf of our staff. And no one is ever going to say that there is not more work to do. Not the people in the classrooms, them most especially, because the professional development that you see on our agendas, the things that they are talking to the superintendent about, Those are the things that matter day to day, in and out. That is the work we need to do. We need to hear from them the same way we need to hear from our community members, the same way we need to hear from board members. But to not be able to focus intensively on where this meeting started is a real disservice to the work going on in this district. And we can say all day long how much we appreciate our educators and our students, but when you call that into question and you overlook that celebration and that recognition, you're undermining that message. So yes, we have a tremendous amount of work to do. Tremendous, because that's the work to serve students, every single one. With that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, Bob, in a second. All in favor? Have a great night, everybody.